Hey, welcome to the Lockdown Economy. We are a social non-profit initiative by the think tank AlterContacts to help small businesses and self-employed professionals overcome the challenges of the pandemic and reactivate the economy. My name is Rosie Allison, and our guest today is Christof Zürn, the founder of Creative Companion, and he helps organizations make the step from iteration to innovation to transformation. Christof, really looking forward to learning a little bit more about Creative Companion today. A very intriguing concept, I think. How are you?
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you also for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And so try and unpack for us a little bit Creative Companion. Like I said, it may seem a bit of an abstract concept to some people. So could you try and explain in your own words what you do as a business?
Yeah, great, thank you. So Creative Companion or Creative Companionship, it's a small consultancy, and before I worked in branding, service design, design thinking, organizational change, and also I have an approach called music thinking. So I try to bring different things that are not yet together or living in the silos. I bring them together, and in the way how I do this, I'm a facilitator of change. And this can be, for example, a business innovation project or a strategy program or a digital transformation or future of work program, people-driven, organizational change-driven. So for me, it's more, I'm looking for the field, and I'm trying to bring together with a hands-on mentality as a generalist. But if you would pin me down on what is a job role, then I would say it's like a strategic or management consultant remixed with a creative lead or a service designer. So that's actually what I'm doing.
Okay, brilliant. And how long have you been doing this?
I'm doing this since 10 years, or no, I think it's 11 years now. So I've seen quite, so I started with the last crisis and then so I'm looking back to 11 years. And I work in small or in big organizations, and sometimes I'm working as an interim manager, sometimes for 3 or 4 days a week for maybe a project or a program. And then I have roles like chief design officer, or I was UX lead or management consultant. But sometimes I'm also doing just workshops or trainings, and also collaborate together with design thinking and design thinking trainings. And so in my network, I'm helping people to think from the client side, and especially how to connect this what you already have in your company.
Right, brilliant. And are you on your own with Creative Companion, or do you have employees that you work with to try and help your clients?
No, I don't have employees. Sometimes I hire another freelancer to do a job together. This would be something so that I'm client facing. But I've partners. I work together in Germany, Spain, or even UK, and in the Netherlands. I'm a part of a cooperative named Fabric. And together with them, for example, I worked on a bigger and also longer project assignment. This was a collaborative transformation for 500 people. So 2 departments bringing them together. So I'm very flexible to get into a team and help a team further. But if the client approaches me, I can set up a team and I'm client facing.
Right, and it sounds like a very flexible, iterative process that I imagine needs a lot of dialogue. So I wonder, when you, with Creative Companion, went into the period of the pandemic, were you struggling a little bit to kind of create this connection that you usually would with clients, because you weren't able to physically get in a room with them and speak to them face to face?
Yeah, I was in the beginning of the pandemic. I was in a lucky position because we were in the middle of the rounding up of a big project. And in one weekend, so it was the medio March, we really shifted everything from real to digital real. So all with the new tools like Miro, Mural, Zoom, or Teams, everything that we're using now, and we think it's some kind of normal to use. The upside was we used this stuff before, but not in the way like we did in the last year. So it was a rather easy start. But after that project, then it took some time to to develop further. And the beginning was good, but now something changed a little bit.
Yeah, and I wonder, so obviously you faced some challenges as all small business owners, as all business owners did during the pandemic. Do you have any advice, any tips for people going through the same thing? How did you make this transition onto these digital platforms that maybe you weren't so familiar with?
Yeah, maybe that's a good thing. In the beginning, I dove in all these possibilities. So it was not the challenge from, oh, I have to do this. It was rather, what can you do? And then you, in a practical way, you just try out everything. Mm-hmm. So I dove into a lot of tooling. But on the other hand, I also worked on my own ideas, like music thinking. That's my approach, how I work. So besides service design thinking, all the other approaches, I found something to connect these. And this was also for me the time to say, from now is also the time to really bring it together and also share it with the community, share it on LinkedIn, share it on Twitter or all the other social media. And this had some effect that people, they found me, and I already did 2 podcasts of an hour to tell about how I work and what is this music thinking or jam cards or other things. So this was really good to do, and maybe also good to mention. I'm also part of a non-for-profit think tank, Medding a think tank. And we stand for Brands with a Conscience. And I'm in that think tank since 2 years. And this was, let's say, a positive by-effect of the pandemic. This gave us more room and also more connectedness, because the members of the think tank, we are 30, are all over the world, from New Zealand to America to India. And this gave us the possibility to really come together and come more often together in Zoom sessions. And we developed some concepts like the Generation Co. Are we all Generation Co now? So the old generation thinking, like the baby boomers, the Generation X, the millennials, Generation C, are we all a little bit equal? And in the way how we're communicating, how we do. And this was a question, and we also published about it, and we're doing online sessions. So this is just work and not paid work, non-for-profit on the side. But it really also gave me something like, wow, this is the time also to give back and try to connect with others. And it also changed a little bit my work and the way how I see things. So it was good to really rather do, instead of just getting stuck and trying to do things that you can't do anymore because you really can't go outside because we have the pandemic.
Yeah, I think that's a great message. You know, you looked for the things that you could do rather than focusing on the things that at the moment we couldn't do. And I think it's been interesting to see throughout these interviews that I have been doing with the lockdown economy, the amount that people actually have used this period to help others. When you would think that, you know, we're in difficult positions, maybe we'd go a bit internally and just want to help ourselves, but actually it's been the opposite. So that's really great to hear that you have also been doing that. You mentioned the music thinking. Could you unpack that a little bit, this way of thinking that you have with your business?
Maybe what's more common for the most people, we have design thinking or service design. So in design thinking, you try to understand how designers approach a project. And they have different phases. And if we use this analogy into the business, then you get that what we have in design thinking, the clear stages. In music thinking, I go a step further, and maybe good to stress, it's not the next new big thing, not the next buzzword we have to use. It's just try to connect all what's already there in the company. And I see a lot of companies struggling. Some people only like design thinking, others like lean startup, and so on. And with the music thinking approach, I try to connect these. Where do they have things in common? How can you bridge branding with the organizational change, or design thinking with service design? And the idea in music thinking is like, if you take the analogy of an orchestra, or maybe even better, like a festival. because the festival is very diverse. It's not only that people are playing from a written out score, but you have a lot of variety, and that's pretty close to a lot of businesses. And how can you bring them together? How can you make them feel the same, but really do their work? And that's the nice thing with the music. It's time-based creativity. It's like in business. So we have to do at a certain time something. And it's not like in the design business where the product is ready. So in music thinking, when you are performing, the other side, your audience, is listening. And that's the start again to iterate. So that's a little bit more my approach, but that's more the story behind. When people ask me, how can you help me? They never ask me, can you do a little bit of music thinking? They have a clear problem, a wicked problem, a problem that in the company teams don't work together, or they have a challenge on an innovation, but maybe the innovation doesn't really fit to the company. And therefore I have approaches, how can you bridge this? How can you bring this together to really let people work together in a meaningful way?
Great. And what kind of companies do you work with? Is it across all sectors, or does it tend to be more in the creative industries?
No, absolutely not. Maybe it's just the opposite. So it's more like public companies, or we worked a lot for mobility, like railroad and holidays. And that's the big problem, because the pandemic hit these companies very hard. So this was the question, how can we develop a dynamic strategy? How can we organize in a new way? And that's again where the analogy with music comes in. Okay, before we thought this is some kind of orchestra playing a score. Now we have to improvise because the score changed while we were playing it. And so I work for big companies, but also for startups and for trainings. I've no focus for an industry. It's just more the process, and this is also in the way how I approach it. It's also with a beginner's mind. I think nowadays a lot of companies have the big problem that you have experts with the experience from the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years maybe. But the question is now, that's good, but we are facing completely different challenges now. This means we have to combine all this information, all the gut feelings, all these tacit knowledge, and we have to combine it with the new things, with the new normal. And maybe that's also something where I see companies now, everybody would like to go back to normal. But I would argue there was no normal before. It felt normal. Now we have to understand that it's still normal in some way. So now it's normal to talk in Zoom. But now we have to see, how does this go? Maybe not the next month or 3 months. We have to define scenarios and strategies and to really look ahead. And this is where you need the creativity, and sometimes creativity from a different angle, and to bring in again the analogy from music. In music, you have different perspectives at the same time. So if you're a player in an orchestra, if you're in a festival, you look to the same thing from different perspectives. And it doesn't mean that one perspective is more dominant or better or the other is worse. It's like we have to understand we have difference, and the question is, how can we bridge these and bring it together, that it's one holistic whole, and also in connection with the world outside, and that we don't have a planet B. So it's also very practical in how can we survive the next month, but it's also how can we this next month after the month after the month, so that we can go on further. So that's a little bit my field of play.
Sure, yeah, no, I think that's again another important message, and something that we've seen quite often on these interviews. The fact that creativity is something really important, not just now to overcome this challenge, but also to keep for the next challenge. Because I mean, fingers crossed we won't have another pandemic for some time, but there's always going to be, you know, something, a spanner in the works that we'll have to overcome. So it's actually valuable to keep this flexibility, this creative thinking to overcome these challenges in the future. So Christof, you've given us a really interesting insight into your business and also your way of thinking, how you help your clients. And I wonder, in the current day, how is your business going?
Yeah, you know, it's like the gig economy. It's like from half-day workshops to maybe 1.5-hour workshops, and maybe to a 1-week design sprint. So it's really, yeah, with a lot of gaps. So at the moment there are no interim questions, because every company is rather waiting and trying to do it by themselves. So I think on the one hand, they really have a need to bring people from outside with a different perspective, or with different perspectives, to help them to see the whole field. But at the moment, it doesn't look like that it's booming. So it's really gig economy, and it's also good for me to really understand this and really be ready to do some stuff also in shorter units. So there's enough room or enough space that could be filled the next month.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, and do you have an outlook for the coming months, when, fingers crossed, we'll be coming out of this period of lockdown in the Netherlands? I should mention that you are based in the Netherlands.
Yeah, or maybe that's good to mention. I'm based in between Düsseldorf and Amsterdam, and that's also a little bit how I feel, because I speak fluent Dutch and fluent German, and that's interesting. Before the pandemic, there was really enough work in the Netherlands also for me, but now I'm more open, and the gig economy is also possible for all over the world. We're doing workshops for clients in Switzerland or in Germany, and only the language is then the barrier. But that's my good an added value from me, that I can switch the languages, and that's open. But at the moment, it's what I just said. It's rather more workshops, rather more online facilitation, where companies are looking for help. And yeah, and that's where I'm focusing now, also to help them to bridge the short-term thinking into a rather long-term thinking, and also help them to do this. Because you just mentioned the creativity, but it's not just the idea to bring the creatives in the company, because if they bring them in, you also have to let them go at a certain time. But the idea is to unleash creativity in everyone you're working with, in all levels, because everybody is creative in some way. But let's see, how does this creativity fit together for the common goal, for the company, and for our challenges. Yeah. So that's a little bit my challenge.
Yeah, a challenge indeed, but it's great to hear that you're managing to keep going during these tough periods, and also help other businesses keep going, which obviously helps the economy during these difficult times. But with all businesses, there are things that you need help with, and we always end here on the Lockdown Economy with the question: could you name some things that in the current climate you really need some help with Creative Companion?
Yeah, for me, it would be perfect or great to get into a talk or a dialogue with companies that really want to make a change, and with all the themes that we know, we see them daily in the newspaper. And for the company itself, it's very hard, because they have to survive in some way. But on the other hand, they also have to rethink their business. So if you're selling holidays, maybe the question is, oh, maybe your purpose is more selling experiences. So how could this open our business? So my help question would be, I'm looking for companies that are open, that really want to make a change, and not just the quick fix we would need for the next month, although I could help them as well. That's why I call iteration, innovation, and transformation. And now it looks a lot like iteration. And another thing would be, I'm also writing the book about music thinking, so I'm also looking for a publisher. So that's for me also also developing a podcast. So that's also for me, really, I have to do the work and share what I'm working. And I try I would like to do this together with companies that really want to go the way, and not just for 1 month. But on the other hand, it's also very practical. If people would need for half a day an online facilitator, I'm here as well. So for me, it's also now, let's first get into contact, work together, also see how you work together, and then see further. So that's, yeah, maybe the only thing I I would ask for help to get into a discussion. And most of the time it's more the leadership that needs followership, and to understand that leading is not just saying what it should be, but also showing how it could be. And I could be a help there, and it would be great to get into companies that are exactly on that part in their change.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Christof, for your really valuable insight into what you're doing as a business, but also into your way of thinking and how this way of thinking can maybe help people watching and other small business owners get through these challenging times. And as Christof said, if you want to start a discussion with him, if you think that maybe he could help you in your business, I'll definitely be linking below some ways that you can get in contact with Christof to start that dialogue. So please like this video, subscribe to the AlterContacts YouTube channel, because in the coming weeks, we're going to have many more small business owners like Christof sharing their insights with you. Christof, thank you again. Really interesting discussion today. Do you have any final words for anybody who may be watching?
No, maybe just one thing, keep up the good work. So it's everybody can and do something, and it's just like stay in shape, just do it. And if you get paid for it, that's a minor detail, an important but minor, but just do your thing and share it with others. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christof.